The summit of happiness is reached when a person is ready to be what he is. The chief element of happiness is this, to want to be what you are. He who allows oppression shares the crime. A nail is driven out by another nail, habit is overcome by habit. I consider as lovers of books not those who keep their books hidden in their store chests and never handle them, but those who, by nightly as well as daily use thumb them, batter them, wear them out, who fill out all the margins with annotations of many kinds, and who prefer the marks of a fault they have erased to a neat copy full of faults. When I have a little money, I buy books, and if I have any left, I buy food and clothes. Your library is your paradise. The main hope of a nation lies in the proper education of its youth. War is delightful to those who have had no experience of it. Give light, and the darkness will disappear of itself. Before you sleep, read something that is exquisite, and worth remembering. If you keep thinking about what you want to do or what you hope will happen, you don't do it, and it won't happen. For anyone who loves intensely lives not in himself but in the object of his love, and the further he can move out of himself into his love, the happier he is. The most disadvantageous peace is better than the most just war. Bidden or unbidden, God is present. The highest form of bliss is living with a certain degree of folly. Now what else is the whole life of mortals, but a sort of comedy in which the various actors, disguised by various costumes and masks, walk on and play each one's part until the manager walks them off the stage. Just as nothing is more foolish than misplaced wisdom, so too, nothing is more imprudent than perverse prudence. And surely it is perverse not to adapt yourself to the prevailing circumstances, to refuse to do as the Romans do, to ignore the partygoer's maxim, take a drink or take your leave, to insist that the play should not be a play. True prudence, on the other hand, recognizes human limitations and does not strive to leap beyond them. It is willing to run with the herd, to overlook faults tolerantly, or to share them in a friendly spirit. But, they say, that is exactly what we mean by folly. I will hardly deny it as long as they will reciprocate by admitting that this is exactly what it means to perform the play of life. Everybody hates a prodigy, detests an old head on young shoulders. A good portion of speaking will consist in knowing how to lie. At last concluded that no creature was more miserable than man, for that all other creatures are content with those bounds that nature set them, only man endeavors to exceed them. Given a choice between a folly and a sacrament, one should always choose the folly, because we know a sacrament will not bring us closer to God, and there's always the chance that a folly will. War is sweet to those who have not experienced it. Human affairs are so obscure and various that nothing can be clearly known. It is a sneaking piece of cowardice for authors to put feigned names to their works, as if, like bastards of their brain, they were afraid to own them. Yet in the midst of all their prosperity, princes in this respect seem to me most unfortunate, because, having no one to tell them truth, they are forced to receive flatterers for friends. By burning Luther's books you may rid your bookshelves of him, but you will not rid men's minds of him. I doubt if a single individual could be found from the whole of mankind free from some form of insanity. The only difference is one of degree. But I am well aware of the excuse which men, ever ingenious in devising mischief to themselves as well as others, offer in extenuation of their conduct in going to war. They allege that they are compelled to it, that they are dragged against their will to war. I answer them, deal fairly, pull off the mask, throw away all false colors, consult your own heart, and you will find that anger, ambition, and folly are the compulsory force that has dragged you to war, and not any necessity, unless indeed you call the insatiable cravings of a covetous mind, necessity, the complaint of peace. It is wiser to treat men and things as though we held this world the common fatherland of all. Young bodies are like tender plants, which grow and become hardened to whatever shape you've trained them. A constant element of enjoyment must be mingled with our studies, so that we think of learning as a game rather than a form of drudgery, for no activity can be continued for long if it does not to some extent afford pleasure to the participant. Do not be guilty of possessing a library of learned books while lacking learning yourself. And what is all this life but a kind of comedy, wherein men walk up and down in one another's disguises and act their respective parts, till the property man brings them back to the attiring house? And yet he often orders a different dress, and makes him that came but just now off in the robes of a king put on the rags of a beggar. Thus are all things represented by counterfeit, and yet without this there was no living. Invite a wise man to a feast and he'll spoil the company, either with morose silence or troublesome disputes. Take him out to dance, and you'll swear a cow would have done it better. Is there anywhere on earth exempt from these swarms of new books? Even if, taken out one at a time, they offered something worth knowing, the very mass of them would be an impediment to learning from satiety, if nothing else. There are some people who live in a dream world, and there are some who face reality, and then there are those who turn one into the other.